and I'm indebted to him for that. That's a wonderful thing. And seeing this turnout today, you can tell that it's going to be going for a long, long time, and I think that's terrific. Gee, I'm responding here. I don't know.
I ran out of memory.
I feel like a shoulder strap on Dolly Parton's brassiere. Realizing I have a big job to do here, but wondering if I'm capable of carrying the load. By the way, we're not only here to celebrate this event, this is also the wedding anniversary for Nancy and I. 1959. Max McGee, Green Bay Packers, you're familiar with him. He was in part responsible. Caught the first pass in the first Super Bowl, and Maxie I've known for a while. And he stopped into town on one occasion and said, "Z, what's going on in the town?" And that meant, let's hit a few watering holes and see if we get lucky. Well, so we did. We got together, and I had been told about Nancy from a salesperson when I was in radio, but before I went into television back in 1955 and 6. The radio salesman told me, came in and said, "Oh, Z, there's a chick over there in the drugstore on that north side, and she's worth looking at." So, fine, I went and looked. I pretended I was going to buy something. At that time in radio, the pay I was getting, I couldn't afford it. But I walked in now. I didn't know her name and I didn't know who she was. But when I saw her, I knew right away who he was talking about. This was this lovely young girl, 1954, 55. But I thought, well, what are we going to do about this? But then I found out she was engaged. And so I thought, well, that kind of takes care of that. Although I knew that I had feelings for her and that I would like very much to continue them, but hey, you're engaged, you're engaged. Then that's where Max McGee came. When Maxie would come into town, give me a call and say, "Hey, Z," there's a little pause between that. "Hey, Z," not "Hazy." And we went out, and things were not that good. It was St. Patrick's Day, 1958. And Max and I hit a couple of watering holes, and then he was going to go back to Green Bay. And to go back, he had to go through Rothschild and Schofield. And there was a place called Malarkey's. And Malarkey on St. Patrick's Day could stay open late, another extra hour. So we had closed up the regular hours. He was still open. And he said, "Well, see, I'm going back to Green Bay." And I said, "Max, there's a place on the end of town. Let's stop it. See what's happening." Because they can stay open. Malarkey's could stay open an extra hour on St. Patrick's Day. We walk in, and my eye, first of all, catches a table of some young ladies, including Nancy. And I saw her, and I said, "Oh, Max, there's a young lady that has really taken my eye. If you don't mind, I'm going to..." "No," he said, "don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself." I said, okay, Max, thank you. I went back to the table with Nancy and her girlfriends or co-workers at that time. And then the evening came to a close at 2 o'clock. And I said, well, Nancy, can I take you home? And she said, yes, you may. I thought, that's wonderful. So we got in, he said goodnight to her girlfriends, and I took her home. No hanky-panky, nothing. Dropped her off. And then she said, Mark, I left my camera at Malarkey's. It's on the floor under the window where we were seated. I said, hey, Nance, Sir Galahad will take care of that, baby. I'll get it for you. She said, and put it in between the doorways. Here, that's fine. So I drive back out there, and now it's a little later. I walk in, the place is kind of empty, and Max, I can't see Max. And I turned to Malarkey, and I said, Malarkey, where's Max McGee? What do you mean, where Max McGee? I said, Max McGee came in. Max McGee was in my joint? Absolutely. Wow. What would he look like? He says, I recognized you coming in. There was a guy next to me. I said, well, I didn't notice him particularly. Well, I said, he was certainly my height, if not taller. I said, a little receding at the hairlines, had this checkered sports jacket. He says, that was Max McGee. Well, our guy, he says, you just missed it. See, he left about 15, 20 minutes ago with 2 chicks. And I said, now you know that was Max McGee. And the one thing led to another. I put a little note in her camera box, said, let's have dinner together. And I thought, well, being engaged, if she were to acquiesce and go out with me, I wouldn't want to go out in Wausau. We'd be recognized. It'd be embarrassing for her. I had some friends, Tom and Josie Wilburn, that owned a place down in Wisconsin Rapids, and Wilburn's, and I figured I'll take her there. So I left a little note in the box. Will you have dinner with me? Such and such. And she wrote back, love to have dinner with you. Oh, I said, Z, you still got it, buddy. It's still razor sharp. So, as I said, we set it up, and just to save herself any embarrassment, we drove 50-some miles to Wisconsin Rapids and Wilburn's. Tom and Josie Wilburn, nice dinner, nice time. And we're driving back afterward, and I said, Nance, I want to thank you. This was very difficult for you, I know. And it was nice of you to go out with me, and it was very enjoyable. We're driving back, and even though you're engaged, oh, she says, oh no, Mark, I'm not engaged anymore. You know, I should have been euphoric. Boy, here she is. You know, the first thing that hit me, why in the hell am I going to drive 50 miles that way and 50 miles back? But if I'd have known this, we could have gone out and lost. But that started it, took her home, and one thing led to another, and we wound up being married in 1959. And it was a, and we are celebrating our 61st anniversary on this occasion here this evening. I told Nance, no, I lost my chain of thought. Doggone it. Shouldn't have had that old-fashioned dance. So I'm embarrassed, folks. So I'm trying to
61
come
years.
up-
Woo!
trying to come up with, on getting married to her in 1959, I also was fishing that year, and I caught the smallest, the biggest, excuse me, smallmouth bass in Marin County in 1959. So Channel 7 decided, well, that's a pretty nice fish. So they came in to do a little interview and talked, and they turned to Nancy and they said, Nance, how do you feel about Mark catching that nice big fish? She says, I'm not overly impressed. I said, you're not? It's the biggest smallmouth in Marin County. Oh, she says, I think I did a little better than that. Oh, the reporter said, I didn't realize you were a fisher person. What did you catch? That's the year, she says, I caught the tallest big mouth ass in Marin. By the way, I'm 91 years old. I'm going to be 92 years old, God willing, in a few weeks. Anybody else here older than me? Anybody in the city older than me? Anybody in the state older than me? So we have a lot to celebrate. I, of course, was crestfallen when Channel 7 decided to end the tournament. I was no longer an employee. I'd left them in 2007. The tournament was going to be taken over by the residents, the sports director, and everybody. So I decided I would like very much to lost my train of thought again. Oh well. Anyway, the tournament was over. I was not talked to, and they didn't have to talk to me. I'd started the tournament, I loved the tournament, but it was a station franchise. So it didn't bother me that much. I'm sorry. Nancy jumped a little bit ahead of me, Ryan, I guess. It was that after it ended in 2018, there was no tournament in 2018. In 2019, we were very fortunate that one of the participants in our tournament, Nick Bobble, came to us and said,
and
"We've
Derek,
got a
and
being
and Derek,
gentlemen that were with him. We would like very much to start a tournament and maybe even carry forward with the Channel 7. Well, management did not feel, since it wasn't Channel 7, that to say it's the Channel 7 is not proper. But they started it, told me their plans about it, and I went to the first tournament. And that was 2019, down at the Stevens Point Country Club. That is a very, very, very nice course. So, Anyway, we watched him. I went down there. They ran the tournament beautifully, first class. And an interesting thing happened. A young man from Merrill, who was in high school, won it. Back in 1961 in the first tournament. That was held at Channel 7. It was held down at the Stevens Point Country Club. No, it was not. I'm sorry. It was in Wausau. But in that field was a young man by the name of John Topol Jr., a junior at Stevens Point High School. He won the tournament at 17 years old. Came back and wanted to defend. Did come back and did defend. Well, I got my head on myself. You win a colored television set back then if you won the tournament, champion. But he couldn't take it because he was in high school. So he donated it to the high school. And now, on the next year, he, in defense of his tournament, he did not win it. But you know what he did do? He hit a hole in one. And in the Channel 7 tournament, any hole in one, you get to have a television set. He could keep it. So it goes to show you there's justice. I wish Nick and his sidekicks all the luck in the world. Like I said, I was impressed the way you ran the tournament down to Stevens Point. It was a great turnout, very enjoyable. They handled it the way they should. Take care of the golfer, put it on a great course, and they will come. And that's exactly what has happened. And they're now committed. This was their first real big step forward. They were kind enough to name it after me. I am very touched by that because it's a class act tournament. And you're handling it that way, and you do me the honor of putting my name on it. That's worth a lot. So there we are. We're off and running. There are going to be many, many of these tournaments, Nick. And we wish you well. Look forward to whatever will come along. For instance, there might be a little bit of rain tomorrow, so give some thought to what might happen if that happens. We lived with that over 50 years, never did get a rain out. Never. Very, very fortunate. But the way you're running the tournament is bound to be a success. And I think this turnout today of 100 people is certainly a testimonial to the fact that something really worthwhile has come upon the scene. There are some great courses in this area, north central Wisconsin. We put in over 11 courses that included private and public. And I'm indebted to the Wausau Country Club because we approached them. I was not a member at that time. I became a member in '65, but in '61 I was not a member of the club. And they took us. And every time you're moving into a private club, let's face it, some of the golfers are going to be impacted on. They want to play, and it could be an uncomfortable situation. That did not happen. They welcomed us. We had a great opening tournament. As I said, John Topol Jr. won it, came back a few years later, won it again, by the way, and could keep the television set. And the rest, as they say, is history. But it doesn't work. You can have the great courses, and the golfers have great courses. They deserve it in a fine tournament. And they did an outstanding job to kick this thing off at Stevens Point and the Wausau Country Club. And it goes to show, and here again, the Wausau Country Club was pleased to have them. As a matter of fact, and of course those of you who played on it, have not played it before, I'm sure found it to be a very worthwhile track. It is. So let's keep it going, guys. Anyway, we can help, we will. It's been a great ride, ladies and gentlemen. A great ride. And even though it ended from the standpoint of the television and being on television, there was an extension of it through this tournament. And the nice thing about that was that, you know, when you're on television, there's no one there. There's a room with a camera. And back of the camera is a camera operator. Today, that's not even true. Everything is robotics, operated by remote control. No one is behind the camera. So you're sitting there in the studio all by yourself doing the news or sports or whatever you're doing. You didn't get to, and the people you get to meet generally because of what you do, Green Bay Packers, Kareem Jabbar, the Milwaukee Bucks, and all of the celebrity type of athletes and newsmakers, you get to meet them. But rank and file, you don't get to meet. So in that tournament, I made it a promise that I would stand on that tee all those years and introduce those golfers because I had a chance to meet them. I liked them. Most of them, I think, liked me. And they just gave us a splendid tournament year in and year out. And they gave me a splendid opportunity to really relate to some truly outstanding athletes who are golfers in this north central area. So I appreciate that very much. Well, I'm nosing around here seeing where I want to go. I guess not anywhere. I guess what I'm going to say, but I know Nick and the guys always take care of the golf. Take care of them like you have, and they're going to take care of you. And as wonderful as I found the Channel 7 Invitational Tournament, I think you will find your tournament every bit as satisfying as I did that. So thank you again for bestowing the privilege of having my name on the tournament. I've never expected that, and I'm touched by it. And I plan, as long as I'm alive, to come and attend it wherever it's going to be held. So, there we are. All in all, for me, it's been a wonderful ride. A truly wonderful ride. It was a pleasure meeting thousands of athletes. It was a pleasure meeting a lot of the professional people, but no pleasure was greater than my meeting every threesome that came up on that tee. Said hello, said, Mark, how are you? I watch you. Some said, no, never watch you. They were never invited again. But folks, thank you. Thank you for turning out. Thank you for being as kind and responsive through all of this. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. God love us all.
Thanks, Mark.